Okay, so I did a video recently explaining a little bit of tolerancing as it applies to wrenches, where the official correct wrench isn't always the best fitting wrench. And my suggestion, of course, is why don't you use the wrench that fits best? So let's get going, see what I mean by this. Here's a 14 millimeter wrench. We measure across the top. What is this? 557. Now, here's a 9/16 Stanley. That measures what? 575. Now we know 9/16, that should be 562. Well, here's Snap-on. That's a high-end wrench. 562 is what we expect to see. And what's that? 570? Well, that's actually, at this point, about the same as this Stanley. Not that Stanley is a bad wrench, but Snap-on is really the standard by which all wrenches are measured. So there's a Snap-on. We measure him. He's 570 across there, 570 thousandths. 562.5 is 9/16. Well, let's see what the things actually measure. Here's a nut. What? 556? How about the head of the bolt? 557. Again, 570. Here's another nut. 559. But now here's an airline fitting. 562. So this airline fitting actually is 9/16. So what can we find then that's going to fit that 9/16 best? Well, let's go back again here to our 14 millimeter. What do we have here? 560. That 14 millimeter isn't going to fit that one, but it is going to fit that nut, and that bolt. Better than the 9/16. Now, these are all supposed to be 9/16, but in this case, this 14 millimeter of a cheaper brand, a benchtop, is going to fit that 9/16 bolt or nut better than this Snap-on wrench. And you know who this is going to offend the most? Snap-on wrench owners. I own Snap-ons. But in the case of this airline fitting, that 14 millimeter is not going to fit this airline fitting worth a crap. See? Well, what do you know? Now is where the Snap-on shines, because it, even at 570, you can see it right there, right? 570, or the Stanley, 570. It's even worse, more like 575. So the best wrench in this application for this airline fitting is the Snap-on wrench. The best fitting for this nut, or this bolt, what's that? 559 is going to be one of these 14 millimeters. Now that's a 3/8/16 thread. Which means that is a 9/16 nut, but it's 556. Here's a 557. So these 14 millimeter wrenches, even though they're not supposed to be the right ones, look how snug that fits. All right? The other end probably even fits a little better. It's a 12 point. Here's the Popular Mechanics. Oh, wow, that fits on there real nice. There's no play there. That's a nice fit. Well, if I was really going to need to reef on a bolt head, these 14 millers are going to fit that. 14 millimeters are going to fit that 9/16 bolt way better than this really expensive Snap-on. Oh, look at all that play. And that's one of the finest wrenches on the market. You'd be hard-pressed to argue a better wrench than a Snap-on wrench. But the same thing occurs around the 13 millimeter as it equates to the 1/2 inch. It occurs at the 8 millimeter where it intersects with the 5/16, and it occurs at the 3/4 inch nuts, bolts, where that intersects with 19 millimeter. In fact, we'll go one step further. Since the 19 millimeter is aiming for 748 thousandths, while the 3/4 inch wrench is aiming for 750, once you allot for clearances, it's a rare sight where the 3/4 inch wrench actually fits a 3/4 inch nut or bolt better than a 19 millimeter actually fits it. No, how dare you say that? Well, I can say it all day long because here's the reality. That 9/16 Snap-on does not fit that bolt as good as a 14 millimeter. There's no play there. That's a good fit. So there's your reality. Like it or not, because of clearances and the way the wrenches are made, and clearances and how the bolts and nuts are made, there's a lot of times where that 14 millimeter is going to fit your 9/16 fastener better. But now look at that with an airline fitting. The only thing that's going to fit that airline fitting is an actual 9/16. There's a reality, folks. Sometimes it's better to use a metric wrench on your SAE, and in different sizes, there's times when you're better off using an SAE on your metric fastener.